My name is Soraya Ribeiro, and I am the Communications Officer of the Jesuit European Social Center, and I will be your host for this evening. Before we start, I just want to share some housekeeping rules. We will be taking some photos during the ceremony, so I kindly ask that if you do not wish to be featured on the photos, please send us an email in the end. This event is being organized in compliance with the government COVID rules. The speakers are allowed to remove their masks, but I kindly ask everyone, all the participants, to wear their masks. Thank you very much. And now I would like to start thanking our excellent guests for being with us this evening. We are joined by the keynote speaker, Mr. Jaume Duch Guillot, spokesperson of the European Parliament and the Director General of Communication of the European Parliament. Before becoming spokesperson of the EP in 2017, Mr. Guillot has always worked in communication-related positions, such as head of the press room and media director of the EP. Our second speaker this evening is Dr. Stijn Latre, Director of the University Center St. Ignatius Antwerp, also known as UXIA. And I would also like to thank Dr. Latre and UXIA for being a partner in this event tonight. Also here today we have Father Peter Rodzic, Director of the Jesuit European Social Center, that will open this session with the welcome address. Also present this evening is Botten Felady, Manager of the European Leadership Program, and Monsignor Schkrerlet, Chargé d'Affaires of the Apostolic Nunciatures to the EU. And without further ado, I will give the floor to Father Peter Rodzic for the welcome address.
Since I saw that the train arrived on time, I would kindly invite Stijn to join us up here. Dear friends, thank you, welcome. Welcome. It's been my task to welcome you this evening to this graduation event. Since I happen to be a Jesuit priest, I'm thinking of how to welcome everybody in the most heavenly and angelic way possible. You would remember, dear graduates, as we had a retreat, that we started with one of the most important points in the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola, which is the principle and foundation. And there St. Ignatius is talking about our mission. What have we been sent here for? What's your mission? Remember? And some of us have clear responses, some of us not yet. Some of us perhaps never, but we are all on that quest. So that's the foundation. At the other side we have, hopefully one day, promotion to glory. Right? This evening you have a promotion and you will receive a certain certificate, the graduates. And so it's a promotion, it's wonderful. And most likely you will have promotions too during your career. At the very end of our lives, we hope to have what some people call promotion to glory, and there will be heavenly happiness, final gladness. And St. Ignatius proposes to us who are still on this earth to have a specific spiritual exercise as we come towards the end of our retreat, that is, let's say, 30 days long, and he proposes to pray for he says, to obtain divine love, based on a preposition that there is such a thing that we could obtain or gain divine love. And he places us in a very specific context, which is heavenly court. And that is, I think, one of the most beautiful images of welcome we can get, which is, he says, I place myself in the middle of the angelic cohort, in front of divine majesty, surrounded by saints, and all of those of us who have gone to the Lord before us, praying and interceding for us. So tonight we can also include all those who we know that have died from our families and friends. Especially I would like to mention Monsignor Le Bopin, who was the nuncio of the Holy See to the European Union and passed away just a few days ago. And he was actually our first graduation speaker a few years ago. So imagine you're surrounded by these saints who pray for you. And you're there like, oh my God, everybody is pushing me towards my promotion, towards my happiness, towards my gladness. And this is how I think we are invited to welcome one another. So I would suggest a very brief exercise this evening, not just for the graduating fellows, but for all those who have gathered here tonight to celebrate with them, which is, let us take a look at one another. Just take a look at your left and your right, behind and in front, and to see how really well all these people here are welcoming you. You are being welcomed almost by angels, saints, and people that pray for you. So as tonight we pray and rejoice with the graduates, we pray and rejoice with one another. And this would be my wish for us all, that while we are still on this earth, we would be as welcoming as possible and being angels to one another, in a sense, so that we can really serve the Divine Majesty here on earth, and especially those that need our help most, those who are excluded and somehow find their way towards us, and we address them, or we are addressed as sometimes ourselves being a little bit poor and need some help. And if we have that angelic exchange, I think our welcome would be divine and very happy. So I wish you this happiness, I wish you this welcome, and again this evening, and congratulations.
Thank you, Father Peter. And we will now take a few minutes to share a prayer moment with Mr. Sherlock.
Good afternoon to all. I'm happy to be here at the graduation ceremony of alumni of the European Leadership Programme. As you know, this is a special training and support for young fellows in their discernment during some time here in the heart of Europe. It is a gifted time, a time of opportunity and a time of decision. Kairos, as the ancient Greeks used to say, for those who are willing to work on themselves and share that experience with others, for progress in personal and public life, both on psychological and spiritual and on professional level. At the end of this formative process, let us invoke the help of the Lord so that we can discern what is good and useful for our lives and what should be avoided because it could harm us. In the beginning, let us ask ourselves a few questions. What am I especially grateful for in the past days? The gift of these days, the love and support I have received, the courage I have mastered. But also, we should ask ourselves, where have I felt true joy? What has troubled me? What has challenged me? And finally, as I look ahead, what comes to mind? With what spirit do I want to enter tomorrow? Maybe here, with Pedro Arrupe, we could say, more than ever, I find myself in the hands of God. This is what I have wanted all my life from my youth. But now there is a difference. The initiative is eternally with God. It is indeed a profound spiritual experience to know and feel myself so totally in God's hand. Let us pray. Take, Lord, and receive all my liberty, my memory, my understanding, and my entire will, all I have and all I may own. You have given all to me. To you, Lord, I return it. Everything is yours. Do with it what you will. Give me only your love and your grace. That is enough for me.
Thank you very much for this moment. I will now give the floor to Dr. Stein Latre for the welcome address.
Thank you, Soraya. And thank you, all of you, to have me here, and I can be part of this excellent and wonderful celebration, this graduation ceremony. So good night to all of you, and let's celebrate together. I'm proud, as director of UXIA, the University Center St. Ignatius Antwerp, to stand here with you for this graduation ceremony. I am proud and honored that for the first time UXIA could host an ELP fellow itself, Lucia Korczogova, who has done excellent research and fieldwork under supervision of Professor Lore van Praag from the University of Antwerp and UXIA Scientific Project Coordinator Barbara Seegaard. She's there, yes. And I am proud of all of you that you now have become European leaders in, so to speak, and we heard it already, Jesuit style. During this semester, you lived together in challenging times, managed to deliver on your commitments in your working place, and were introduced by Peter in Jesuit spirituality and personal counseling, and I take it as an experience you will never forget. You forged connections with each other that will last for a lifetime. So now you have become European leaders, signposts to the future, emblems of hope. Of course, I don't want to put the weight of the world on your shoulders, but for sure you inspire us today, carrying this reference to hope and to the future with you. Hope and the future. Let us dwell a bit longer on these words. As many of you will be involved in policy making, let's do some philosophical reflection on these concepts that will guide your ways, implicitly or explicitly. First, our stance towards the future can be determined by prognosis. As scientists, and you all have written excellent research papers, you try to analyze existing data in order to give a prognosis about the future. The way our virologists did, actually, and in a very useful and very necessary way in the last troubling months and years. But maybe this approach is also a bit reductionist. We try to master and control the future, to strip it of its unpredictable traits. Or sometimes this kind of prognosis can even fill us with fear and despair, as frequently happens with yet another prognosis, the one about climate change, for example. Of course, prognosis is also good when it comes to football or soccer predictions. So Belgium, Italy, 2-0, 2 goals by Lukaku. Sorry for the Italians. Second stance. Our stance towards the future can secondly be determined by utopian thinking. In utopian thinking, some ideal about social reality or social justice issues is taken as something we need to realize now, and here, with a lot of fervor and effort to make over society, as it were. We then unleash a lot of energy, but the pitfall is that we then may think that we all can and should do it ourselves. Yes, we can. The danger is that, blinded by our sacred convictions, we forget that humans are also fallible beings, and that in our rage to reform the world, we become violent and exclude those who are not with us, not on our side, or who are simply too slow. That is when utopia becomes dystopia. So I wish you all the knowledge and wisdom of prognosis. I wish you the energy and drive and zeal of utopian thinking. But foremost, I wish you yet another stance towards the future, that of transformative hope. It is the hope that here and now you can do the right things to change the future, to make the earth a better place to live on for all of its creatures. It is a hope and not a certainty. It is a hope that questions itself while in action. It is a hope that questions itself while in action. It is the hope that we today have meaningful jobs to do and ideals to aspire to, even if at some point in the future this meaningfulness may be questioned or even denied. And after the words of Charles Péguy, I wish you to cherish this little girl of hope, cette petite fille espérance. Et Péguy, il écrit, et je continue en français. It doesn't have to be an all-English event, right? Ce qui m'étonne, dit Dieu, c'est l'espérance. Cette petite espérance qui n'a l'air de rien du tout. Cette petite fille espérance, immortelle. La foi voit ce qui est. La charité aime ce qui est. L'espérance voit ce qui n'est pas encore, ce qui sera. Sur le chemin montant, sablonneux, malaisé, sur la route montante. L'espérance fait reconnaître que la vie a un sens, que l'être humain a du prix, que rien n'est fatal. Thank you for being our hope and our future today, and many congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Steen Latres, for the inspirational speech, and thank you for taking the time to be here tonight with us. And now it's time to share a special surprise from Dr. Roberta Metsola, a member of the European Parliament and who is also an ELP speaker and a familiar face among the fellows, and who wanted to share a message with our fellows today. So let's watch this inspiring video.
Congratulations. I knew it took a lot of hard work to get to this point. And as a beneficiary of a Jesuit education myself, I understand the commitment to community, to reaching high, to making a difference, while rooted in a value system that is intrinsically European. It is our best side at a time when the world is looking to us for leadership, when our European way of liberal democracy, of politics based on values, are being called increasingly into question. Being elected does not make you a leader, and the world needs leaders now more than ever. It needs people who are ready to serve and who are ready to stand up for what we believe in. And if we take one message from my speech today, it is that: stand up, serve, lead. There is virtue in leadership as there is in science. Politics for me has always been a force for good, and despite the back and forth, it is still the best avenue for change. Because at its core, it is about strengthening our community together, about leaving no one behind, about understanding that the common good is greater than the one, about realizing that we are not safe until we are all safe, and that the weakest, the most marginalized in our societies, are as much a part of our community as you and I. It is these communities, so often voiceless, so often ignored and scapegoated, that leaders need to speak for, and crucially, speak to. Then we can grow as a society, as a community. And this, I am so proud that the European Parliament, this institution, is truly a leader. It is unique in the world, one that truly shows that Europe can function in a way that respects the diversity of opinions, ideologies, religions, languages, and nations, while remaining anchored in our core shared values. It is not always an easy balance to find, as Jaume Duch, I am sure, will tell you. But in our Parliament, like in our Europe, it is the strength of your argument that matters, not your geography, the depth of integrity, not the volume of your voice. And there, I think, is a message that needs to resonate more. We need to reflect more on how we can transmit this message to a generation that consumes information and news literally at the speed of light. We are seeing short-termism, populism, easy cynicism, and the attraction of extremism filtering down faster than at any other point in my memory. And one of my most pressing concerns is our ability to push back against the populist anti-European narrative that takes hold so easily and so quickly. It is a concern tied to our complacency or the ease to which things can be taken for granted. The large generation of politicians to have experienced the nightmare of war firsthand have passed on their baton to the Erasmus generation. And we need to keep showing and reminding people that ultimately Europe is the world's greatest peace project. It is on all of our shoulders to make our voices heard in defense of strong, value-based politics. Or frankly, we risk getting drowned out by populism and extremism that can have far-reaching social, political and economic consequences. My hope would be to see a Europe that is stronger, that respects the diversity that makes it so unique, that is able to respond quickly to shifting geopolitical landscapes, that understands that it must keep evolving. We have just launched the conference on the future of Europe, testament to our commitment to leave this project better than we found it. And in this process, we must be honest about Europe, honest about our failings and the frustrations of our processes, but also honest about our successes. And we have had more than a few. Europe is peace. It is clean air and clean seas. It is justice and rule of law, rights, equality and opportunity. It is vaccines and ventilators. It is jobs, respect and dignity. That is the bigger picture we can never lose sight of. But Europe can also be more. We are emerging into a time of opportunity to rebuild and recommit. We are facing serious and different challenges from those we faced before, and we need to come together like never before. This is Europe's time to lead. This is your time. Thank you.
A very special and inspiring message to our fellows from the MEP Roberta Metsola that I'm sure that will inspire our fellows to lead with purpose in the future. And now I would like to call to the stage the representative of the ELP alumni, Benedict Collin, for a brief intervention and speech. The stage is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Do not be afraid, for my cough is not COVID, but just the summer in Brussels. So, I wanted to start my speech with something fun about football, but I lost all my nice catchphrases since my team lost against the country of chocolate and overpriced highways. Thank you everyone for coming tonight to listen to my speech. I'm aware we always keep the best speaker for the end. Peter, Mr. Lettre, it's a pleasure to see you again. And now I realize that, Mr. Guillot, you will be the last one, so I'm therefore very jealous of you. I was going not to prepare so much about this speech tonight and hope for inspiration and the Holy Spirit. But I happen to have a very dear American intern, Anthony, ELP fellow and graduating tonight, that motivated me to say something inspiring with the style of Steve Jobs in front of Stanford. So tonight you are my Stanford and I am your Steve Jobs. And now I see Botan and John Marco that are starting to sweat a little bit. So I will take this opportunity to thank you for your work. And I'm sure the ELP fellows will thank you later as well. But yeah, on a personal note, I'm very grateful for this program. So big thanks for the JESC on that and this program. Thank you for the speakers of the program. I see some of them here, of the people that I remember welcomed us for the defense of our research paper. I remember you. I'm sure you don't remember me, but it's fine. And yes, good evening to all the other guests. You are not forgotten. My name is Bénédicte Collin. I was part of the 2019 ELP second cohort. Happily working in the European Federation of Catholic Family Associations, and as you may have guessed, very proud French person. But let's go back to European. I tonight represent the ELP alumni, even though no one elected me for that, but I'm taking that right anyways. We do not blush to say that we are a European success. We earn our E of European as much, if not more, than the European Commission, the European Council, the Council of the EU, and maybe even as well the European Parliament. Please, no offense, Mr. Guillot. I mean, look at us. Look at those fellows. EU leaders of the European Council. Always switch those ones. EU leaders of the European Councils are amateurs when you compare to the difficulty on a Friday night after a very tiring week to try to cook simple pasta with Italians around. Negotiations are impossible. Compromises out of the equation. You need to find unexpected allies. And for that, I invite you to bet on Hungarians because they put cream as well in their carbonara. I will take the risk to be a bit old-fashioned as well tonight. I'm Catholic, so I will not shock anyone. I will speak after speaking about European, not about European Union, but European community. You will, I guess you heard a lot this word in the mouth of the fellows and everyone, which is something very important. So allow me to draw a quick background on why we will see and hear that much this word tonight, I hope, if I'm not mistaken. Imagine you arrive in Brussels from your home country. Rainy, cloudy, trash everywhere, yellow on Sunday, blue on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. You arrive here as a foreigner, and you find a community right away. And 5 months later, you leave friends with regrets, maybe people that you consider as your European family. Of course, it's not perfect. It's like every family. You have your uncle that drinks too much, the mom that wants to clean all the apartment, and the sibling that never wants to take the trash out. So that's a reality as well. I highly dislike when people say, when they speak about DLP, that's good networking for later, for your work career. I would not have suffered the bad music taste of my flatmates for months. Jam or ham in a croissant, or family calls at 3 a.m., either in Spanish or Italian language, but let's be honest, only Italian language. If I only wanted work connection, that's way bigger than that. Because those people, the ELP fellows, are not only friends or members from like this big Europe. Those are people that you can trust, because you lived with them for a month. And that, I think, it's for me what Europe is about. I guess I'm aware it's cheesy, I know. But let's go completely full in. Those people, those persons, are not just friends, people that you consider as your family, people you trust. there are as well people that you can learn from. You meet so many people from so diverse backgrounds, different countries, culture, nationality, language, socialization, class, political views, notion of lateness. I learned so much from my fellow ELP friends. For example, now I'm 20 minutes late everywhere I go. But hopefully I learned, for example, how fun Italian politics are, or how bad my French ancestors were when they divided Hungary after the First World War. I'm aware now we screw up. Sorry. We are a community of learners. That is maybe something that lacks in today's EU bubble. To learn from the other. To learn to remain silent and to stop to speak when you do not know, to learn from others. And to speak out when you do know for the others to learn. You confront, you debate, you give up on your prejudices, maybe on your pride as well, to grow in mutual understanding. And I think one of the biggest richness of this program. I think I'm already a bit too long, so thank you for this experience in the name of all the ELP alumni. Not only now, but even after the program, because it does not stop here, it starts here. And dear fellow, congratulations, and welcome in this beautiful family of ELP alumni.
Thank you, Benedict. And now the long-awaited moment has finally arrived. I will now hand the floor to Mr. Jaume Duch Guillot, Director General for Communication of the European Parliament and its spokesperson, for his keynote speech. Thank you very much for being with us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Allow me, of course, to begin by thanking the organizers, the ELP, for the opportunity to speak to you. It's truly an honor to have the possibility to offer the graduation speech for the 2021 ELP Spring Cohort here in Brussels. An honor that I accepted for two reasons. The first, because I was unaware that this ceremony would take place at the very same moment that Spain is playing the Euro semi-finals. I'm kidding. And the second, much more seriously, is because of the specific characteristics of this European leadership program, which does more than bringing people together in a classroom for a few months here in Brussels, in the capital of the European Union. What sets this course apart and makes it different, in my opinion, looking from outside, is the truly holistic approach to learning and self-improvement that it offers. The combination of theoretical training with real-life experiences, both within and outside the Brussels bubble, as we call it, and that's a welcome approach. It provides perspective, it provides balance, it pushes you to ask yourself important questions about you as a person and also about your role in society. I'm sure that the time you have spent here has been enriching and I'm certain that it will serve you well. Dear friends, let me take some time to describe the world today before I focus on Europe and how necessary it is to take care of her and offer our common venture the right leadership. The pandemic has certainly not made anything easier, including your time in the European Leadership Program. As we all know, it has created huge challenges in all facets of our daily lives. However, we hope now that we are seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. We are edging closer to normality, or at least something resembling how we lived before. The events we are living through are truly epochal in nature. That is why few believe that we will go back to business as usual, or that it's even desirable. In part, it's because the global health crisis is clearly exposing systemic weaknesses in society. Weaknesses that existed already, but which were hidden from our eyes most of the time. Obviously, the coronavirus human toll through sickness and deaths is immeasurable. There are, in addition, the psychological and economic consequences of lockdowns that we do not fully understand yet. Overall, and most worryingly, the pandemic has further increased the gap between those who are most and least fortunate. Tens of millions of people have been pushed back into extreme poverty. COVID-19 has turned the clock back on gender equality for many women, especially in the developing world. It has kept 1.6 billion youngsters out of education, according to the United Nations, and 114 million jobs were lost in 2020, according to the World Economic Forum. These are all eye-watering statistics that should make us pause for thought. In parallel with the pandemic, as if it were not enough, the future of our planet continues to hang in the balance. Today, the dreadful wildfires in Canada demonstrate again how important and urgent common action is to addressing climate change. Clearly, we do not have a silver bullet that solves any of these issues, and solutions take time to implement. Most citizens accept this necessity to change. Most will not accept the status quo either. They want decision makers to deliver transformative policies firmly inspired by true solidarity. And I will come back to this key word, solidarity, in a moment. So in the next years, our world, our society is going to need good leadership based on firm and solid values that seeks out the common good. History has proven many times that leaders driven by strong values obtain the best results and leave the most lasting legacies. And those leaders are always crucial when times are difficult, as they are now. So what is leadership? The dictionary says it is the action of leading a group of people or an organization and the state of, or the position of being a leader. Yeah, that sounds simple enough, or is it? Obviously not. It is about much more than giving orders or one's status in society, at least the real one, the real leadership. In my years of experience in the European institutions, in the European Parliament, and now leading close to almost 1,000 people, I learned that leadership is about inspiring others to do good things, to do what is right, and it's bringing out the best that a group has to offer. Let me mention first what Pope Francis, a very special leader, tells us in his Fratelli Tutti encyclical. It's not about leadership itself, but in a way I think he's describing the necessary elements to shape the true one. He asks us to think about how we can tangibly build a more just and fraternal world in everyday relationships, society, and politics. He cautions against the distortions and manipulations of democracy, freedom, and justice. He sends a strong warning on the importance of community and the danger of indifference. Equally, he encourages us to foster what is good and place ourselves at its service. Pope Francis calls on all of us to open our hearts to the world and champion politics centered on human dignity, to strive to foster dialogue and seek friendship. As the personalist thinker Emmanuel Mounier said, and now I'm translating to English, man is only validated through his actions. However, his deeds reveal the genuine value of his spoken word and the authenticity of his thoughts. And when it comes to actions speaking louder than words, to the best possible leadership, What better example is there than the legacy granted to us by the European Union's founding fathers? The European project, the family of peoples, as described by Pope Francis in his address during the conferral of the Charlemagne Prize, is a case study in the implementation of a vision for the greater good guided by strong, universal values and principles. The peace and prosperity that we enjoy is anchored in values that define European identity. The centrality of freedom and human dignity. As described by the Pope in this quite important speech, the ashes of the ruins could not extinguish the ardent hope and the quest of solidarity that inspired the founders of the European project. They laid the foundations for a bastion of peace, an edifice made up of states united not by force, but by free commitment to the common good and a definitive end to confrontation. Europe, so long divided, finally found its true self and began to build its house. This identity and these values are universal. They are borderless and existed long before the advent of the nation state. They are what makes us much more than a mere market of goods and services or a currency. However, for this very same reason, again, the European project can only grow when there is good leadership and civic commitment. This is why, in my opinion, the European project is worth investing in the best human resources, those moved by ideals that are bigger than we are. And this is probably one of the reasons why I joined the European institutions many years ago, and certainly the reason why many of you are here in Brussels now and not in your countries of origin. But projects have to be defended, protected, helped. Over the last decades, the European project has gone through periods of growth, stability, but crisis too. In recent years, we have dealt with several difficult situations: monetary and economic crisis, the migrant crisis, Brexit, not to mention, of course, COVID-19. And despite, or because of them, the European Union is now more essential than ever. Let me mention the last example of a European Union that is responsive when the need is there. The ambitious recovery plan for Europe that will inject hundreds of billions of euros into the economy, kind of new Marshall Plan for Europe. Every crisis opens the door to new opportunities, and this plan throws it wide open. More than a stimulus package, it's an exceptional, once-in-a-generation opportunity to do things differently. But it's not only about the economy. It cannot be only about economy. The European Union cannot be just a market, a set of rules, a space for freedom of movement. You don't need visionaries like Schuman, de Gasperi, or Adenauer to build up just an internal market. It's primarily about people, and it's about solidarity. It was said again by Pope Francis in his encyclical. Solidarity means much more than engaging in sporadic acts of generosity. It means thinking and acting in terms of community, European community. It means that the lives of all are prior to the appropriation of goods by a few. It also means combating the structural causes of poverty, inequality, the lack of work, land and housing, the denial of social and labor rights. As I said before, increased inequality is one of the most unfortunate negative impacts of the pandemic, but here too the EU is taking action. Leaving no one behind must be the mantra that takes Europe forward in the future. As President Sassoli said recently, if our social economic model is not at the heart of the recovery, the great transition we are preparing, such as the green and the digital revolution, will leave behind many, many vulnerable people, something which we cannot afford. And if we do not focus on children and young people, on their dignity, on their rights, above all the right to future well-being, we will bear the great responsibility of having disappointed and lost generations, which should instead must be the muscle and the minds of the European project. So, dear friends, when confronted with the harsh reality of crisis, it is important to remember the great ideals of European unification. Peace, democracy, freedom, fundamental rights are not merely abstract concepts. Of course, there are genuine everyday concerns such as personal health, employment, or maintaining one's standard of living. However, as leaders, the way we seek to solve those problems, thanks to inclusion, to equality, to fraternity, and respecting diversity, is as important as the goal itself. It's the lifeblood of the European Union. Despite the enormous difficulties associated with the pandemic, I believe that the winds are beginning to blow in favor of common solutions to build a more resilient union directly benefiting for citizens. This can take time and require short-term sacrifices. This will certainly need a lot of good and efficient leadership. Citizens are sometimes frustrated when they look to the European Union for answers to their problems or when protection and solutions are not delivered immediately. Responding to those expectations is one of the most difficult challenges we face, but equally, we see momentum and real change. Let me start ending by mentioning the role to be played by the European Parliament, the institution that is closest to its citizens, the one that speaks on their behalf, and therefore the one that bears enormous responsibility in keeping the European Union on the right path. It brings together elected politicians who work towards improving the lives of ordinary citizens across national borders, and this is the essence of each member's mandate, as Roberta Metsola said. Like you, the MEPs reflect the wealth of different backgrounds, languages, cultures, ideas that make the European Union what it is, a collective leadership in some way. The European Parliament plays a unique role in the democratic process today, and this makes me think that serving as an official of this institution, and I underline serving, is first and foremost a privilege, but it's also a huge responsibility. Again, in the words of the Pope, solidarity finds concrete expression in service, which can take a variety of forms in an effort to care for others. And service, in great part, means caring for vulnerability, for the vulnerable members of our families, our society, our people. In offering such service, individuals learn to set aside their own wishes and desires, their pursuit of power, before the concrete gaze of those who are most vulnerable. Service always looks to their faces, touches their flesh, senses their closeness, and even in some cases suffers that closeness and tries to help them. Service is never ideological, for we do not serve ideas, we serve people. Let me conclude. Europeans began a great journey 70 years ago that has progressively brought peace, democracy, freedom and prosperity across our continent. The European Union is a unique experiment in government and cooperation among nations. It has been instrumental in establishing economic and civic freedoms that were unthinkable for previous generations. This does not mean that the EU is perfect. As discussed, there are major challenges that lie ahead. As we bring the pandemic under control, we must think of how to tackle the threat posed by disinformation to democracy, while shielding it from self-interested nationalism and harmful demagogues, safeguard the Union's security and prosperity by delivering responses to existential issues such as climate change, address inequalities thanks to a truly inclusive approach to economic development, and remain a beacon of freedom, rule of law, and democracy. And you will be instrumental in taking Europe forward in the next years, and there will be choices to be made. you will have to choose. You will have to choose if you will extend the EU as a community of values that underpins the genuine progress. You can also decide to go back and allow the EU to be a mere market of goods and services. But, of course, I sincerely hope that you will choose the former. But in any case, the point is that it's not my generation's choice to make it anymore. It's yours. You will have a vital role to play as the influencers of tomorrow. You must be optimistic. We face challenges, but equally, there are many opportunities. As Herman Van Rompuy once said, positive thinking is no longer for drifters and dreamers in the perpetually naive. People who think positively see more opportunities, perform better, take more often correct and sound decisions, have more self-confidence, maintain better relations, and have more trust placed in them. We should embrace the former European Council President's optimism. And again, it does not matter if you bring this positive thinking to inspire others on these crucial issues. As an MEP, as a new civil servant, teacher, student, a grassroots activity, or as an ordinary citizen, in this fight, everyone is equally important. We must all spread this message, this mission of striving to work for the common good of our fellow Europeans. There are not too many better civic or political missions as the one of building up a united Europe under the basis of values, rights, and duties. A mission impossible if there is no leadership, the right one, the one based on service and the common good in values and in purpose. I wish you all the very best in your future endeavors, and I hope that your experiences here in Brussels will reinforce your belief in this European dream. The ideals that underpin it have inspired me since I was young, and I continue to motivate thousands of fellow EU civil servants on a daily basis. I hope that you will carry them with you too, regardless of where life's journeys takes you. So thank you very much, good luck, and congratulations.
And now it's time to move to the Q&A session. So if any of the participants have any questions, please raise your hand. I will meet you and then we will hand the floor to the speaker to follow up on the question. So any questions from the audience?
Just add that this is a Q&A completely open, so you can also ask questions from the fellows. Or the fellows can ask questions, of course. From Jaume.
Who's first? First is always the most difficult, yeah? But you are becoming leaders, so I'm sure that there are many questions surrounding you. We had a long discussion already 2 weeks ago, for almost 2 hours, so maybe
But not everyone was present.
maybe that's why some questions probably were answered at that time.
The fellows are very shy today. I don't know what's happening.
It's coming behind you.
Yeah, how you guys doing? Good to be here. Hope the game is going well. So I guess if I could add on a question relating to the European Parliament. I mean, as an American, in the United States, people, not like in Europe, in the United States, people don't view themselves primarily as being from Wisconsin, California, New York, whatever. They view themselves much more in national terms, and I think that's one of the goals of European integration. However, if you look at the European, or rather the American Parliament, the two houses, their approval ratings are something like 6 or 8%, and it seems like people are united in their hatred of the government. Is something like that, I mean, something that, you know, is furthering European integration through the government really possible, or is it more man's natural desire to hate government and, you know, rebel against authority? I ask as an American.
Okay, I think it's a mix of several things. I don't think that the future of the European Union is cancelling the national pride or the feeling of being a national from France or Italy or Hungary. This would be the wrong path and probably the impossible one. We have to find the balance, as in many other cases in life and for many other projects. And this balance, of course, probably will evolve depending on what the citizens will want. Because at the end of the day, this is something to be decided by the citizens, not by the politicians. The politicians will follow the citizens, not the other way around. So we'll see. I mean, many people say, yeah, but this European integration, this is so slow. Yeah, well, I mean, it depends what does it mean slow. The European Union is here since 70 years, but in a quite evolutive way. So it started in a very humble way, I would say, and it has been increasing and taking more power and more competencies with the years. But 70 years is nothing. I mean, 70 years is the life of one generation. So in some way, the fact that right now you can see all these powerful institutions and how many things are decided in Brussels or in Strasbourg, or the fact that for fighting against pandemic everybody looked to Brussels and not to the capitals of the member states, this means that a long way is behind us. But yeah, the question is, what's about the future? Do we think that this integration will go on, will increase in the next years? We don't know. We don't know. The only thing that I know is that the European Union didn't come to replace the member states. I don't think that this is what people want. And again, I don't think that this is something that will happen, at least not in the next 20, 30, 40 years. Then, of course, history can take many different ways. But now the question is not about how to compete with the member states, but how to help and how to complement the member states. And if we are useful in doing that, then probably people will support or will back more integration. If we are not, then people will take other ways, other directions.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your talk. This is the leadership program, so I'd like to ask you, throughout your career working in the European Parliament, where have you showed good leadership skills?
My leadership skills? This probably is a question for others in the European Parliament. It's a little bit difficult for me to speak about my skills. The only thing that I can say is that when I arrived to the European Parliament, I was 25 years old. I started as an administrateur à l'époque in Luxembourg for 7 years. You can do your career in many ways. You can be successful or not. Probably if you have these skills and if you show these skills and you put these skills into practice, then your career will be faster and will be more successful. I'm now among the 13 Director Generals in the House, in the European Parliament. I'm the spokesperson of the House since 15 years now, which is quite a long time of period, meaning that I serve to different presidents from different nationalities and from different ideologies. I'm still there. I'm still respected as a spokesperson. Nobody asked me to resign or to be removed and sent back to Luxembourg to be in charge of informatics or buildings there, which, by the way, it's a nice work. So this means that maybe some skills were there.
Any more questions to our speakers?
And practically, you can ask also Benedict, Father Peter, Stein. We have 2 coaches in the room at least who were working with the fellows, and we have some neighbors, so you can ask also about the living conditions.
We have one question.
Hi, thank you very much. I think we often talk about integration in very simplified terms as something that happens and goes further in a kind of very Whig kind of history of progress. But I think the bigger problem right now is the threat of disintegration, particularly with the passage of the generation that no longer remembers the war and is motivated by peace. I think peace is something that a lot of us probably take for granted, especially from my generation and even probably a generation or two younger than me. And I think especially sort of as a Slovenian, with the Slovenian presidency coming in and not coming off to a very auspicious start, it seems to me that right now the union's primary task is not further integration, but preventing disintegration. And it's probably a facile comparison, but political communities often have trouble with the loss of their founding generations. It's not sort of that loss of the founding generation is one of the things that presumably led to, and that Abraham Lincoln thought led to the Civil War in the US. And I wonder sort of where you see the potential for combating disintegration or for finding new sources of integration that are no longer about peace. I think sort of the pandemic might have offered some hope in that direction, but it doesn't seem to have worked so far. So I wonder where you see sort of the ways of combating disintegration and maybe thinking about how to keep what we have instead of maybe too easily looking to what we might gain in the future. Thank you.
Yes, of course, there won't be a future if there is no present. It's a very interesting question, but first I would make a difference between governments and people. Because when you look to the situation in some countries, and I'm not going to enter into any kind of a blame game now, and you have to make this difference. Because the surveys and all the studies and also the conversation, the talks with people in these countries show always, every day, that there is a difference between the way the governments approach integration and the way society understands the logic of being part of something bigger than a member state. Then, of course, you can share one way or another to integrate, or you can share or not the intensity of this integration, but the principle of working together or the principle of living together, it's a principle which, in my opinion, right now is shared by a majority of citizens in all the member states. And by the way, these surveys tell us that there has been a positive effect from this point of view, and only from this point of view, from COVID and the whole pandemic crisis. Because again, people understood that the countries now are too small if they want to find a way to survive in a very, very, very complicated world, where even for getting a mask, you have to negotiate and fight against the 20, 30, 40 other governments because there is just one country in the world which is producing those masks 1 year and a half ago. At the same time, these last years, there have been a lot of discussion about how to present the European Union to the younger generations. What you said, these young people, they don't reflect in terms of war and peace because they didn't have this war experience, with some exceptions, because you come from a country where probably this memory is fresher, or at least from a region where this memory is fresher. But okay, in most of cases, this is not what happened. And for some years, there was the discussion, even within the communication services in the European Parliament, okay, how are we going to present the European Union to young people in a way that young people will accept it and support it and back it? We cannot speak to them in terms of war and peace and reconciliation and reconstruction, because all these things are behind us? Should we speak to them about concrete advantages, about cheap flight tickets, about Erasmus, about not wearing a passport to travel? Yeah, these things can be very important and are very important, but as I try to say, you don't need to create an European Union for that. You could do that in many other ways. You just need kind of intergovernmental agreement, and all these things will be there. And I think that the answer came in a kind of automatic way. During the last European elections in 2019, the section of population where the increase of vote was the bigger was among young people, from 18 to 25 to 30 years old. Almost double compared with 2014. Why? Because climate change. Because there were many young citizens in many countries that understood that if this is their first concern, if this is their first problem, the first source of preoccupation for the future, they have to find the solution where the solution can be provided, and the solution cannot be provided at the national level. And this is why, and I mean, it's not something that I try to guess, this is the result of looking to the figures and to the data. This is what mobilized for the first time an amount of young people that never before decided to go and vote for the European elections. So there, maybe it's not about a war anymore, but it's about another kind of war. In this case, the war against climate change. And you could maybe add to climate change other big problems or situations where people, and now pandemic is the last example, people understood that the member states, even the biggest member states, are too small.
Okay, so many questions. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guillot, for being here again with us. It's a pleasure to have you again. Let me just introduce myself. I'm we met the last time, and I think, is it working? Yes. Yeah, good. So now that we are talking about the youth, I would like to ask you about the European Parliament's work, or how does the European Parliament tries to actively involve the youth to be interested about European politics and elections and so on, and not just the benefits that the European Union gives us? If you could answer.
Well, maybe the first thing is to make the difference between the European Parliament and the political groups and the members of the European Parliament. Because you come from which country? Slovakia. If you go to the Slovak Parliament, probably you won't ask to the officials of the Slovak Parliament, what are you doing for young people? You will ask this to the members, to the chairs of the political groups, to the members of the government, of the national parliament. In the case of the European Parliament, sometimes there is this kind of reaction. We need an answer from the Parliament as such, from the institution. And I think that it is important to complement this with a question to those who really have the power to change things, who are, in this case, the members of the European Parliament and the political groups in the House. I'm not saying that we, as an institution, we are not doing anything for young people. We are doing many things in terms of activating participation. We have created communities. We launched the This Time I'm Voting campaign before the last elections. We now put into place the Together.eu, which is also an interactive community to motivate young people to participate in politics and to participate in European politics. We are organizing every 2 years, and next will be in next October in Strasbourg, the European Youth Event, which is an enormous gathering of almost 10,000 young people to discuss during 3 days about the state of the Union and about the future of the European Union. All these things we are doing, we are using social media platforms, we are now thinking about being into TikTok, and everywhere the young people are, at some point the Parliament has to decide if yes or not we will be also there. On TikTok, I'm not completely sure, but we'll see. But again, the real thing, or the real important thing, the situation which in fact will produce change is the political decisions. It's not just the participation that we are going to animate, it's about the decisions that the parliament is going to take. Is the legislation that the parliament is going to pass. Is the European Union, if it's able to add more money to the budget for Erasmus, or for looking for a first job, or for helping young people in distressed situations. This is, in my opinion, the most important thing. And then, of course, we can organize the general conversation with the young people, but the first thing is to serve them passing the laws, passing the European laws that will help them to get a better future.
Thank you.
Let's take the questions together from Francisco and Marcos.
So good evening, my name is Marcus. I have a question for the fellows here in the room, because so far it's been mainly those who are older than I who spoke. And the questions were mainly, what is the European Union, what is it about? And the way our generation usually explains the European Union is, well, if it wasn't for the European Union, it would be worse. So it's a bit like in the Brexit referendum, people adopted Project Fear. There are all these economic benefits which will have their merit, and they do have some traction with, let's say, one chunk of the population. But my question to the youngsters in the room would be, is there any theme, a person, a narrative that you would see which could actually rebrand the EU, which would actually motivate your generation to work for the greater good?
My question would actually be on the conference on the future of Europe. I think you said it, that the Parliament is actually the EU institution that normally closest to the people. And now we had COVID, so there were no visitors allowed in. So it was a bit more difficult to have the relation also to the citizens. And then after a lot of struggles now in the last weeks, finally the conference on the future of Europe started. I would be interested in your personal opinion, like as a leader working a lot of years already for the EU institutions, not as a spokesperson. What do you think this conference on the future of Europe can really contribute to strengthen the relationship to the citizens again and change also a bit the view there?
Yeah, I will jump to the opportunity to also refer to the conference. And actually, I was a trainee in the press office when we started working on the conference, and I'm working on it from the outside. So my a genuine personal and not professional question is, how can we manage to actually, after we do the conference and we come with these conclusions, are there any plans in actually creating a legislation or practical implementation, or is this going to remain what parts of the left call a sheer communication exercise? And I know it comes a bit aggressive, but it's something that I was personally really interested in hearing your opinion. So, yeah, thank you.
Let's give a chance to the fellows to reply.
Yes, exactly.
To Jaume.
To Marcus?
Yes, to Marcus' question.
Yeah, I can respond to Marcus if nobody else wants to.
Is it really European?
Marcus is my neighbor, so yeah. So as I said, Marcus is my neighbor, so I can address this perhaps more directly to Marcus. Hope you're doing well. And sorry about all the noise, all those times. Yep. So what does the EU mean to us? Or I mean, I can't speak for all the fellows. And obviously I do have one foot in sort of another pond, if you will. But I would go back to sort of, you know, the classical argument of Adam Smith, you know, peace through trade or free trade. And I'd say, I mean, you know, even though I obviously didn't live through any wars or anything like that, I mean, the historicity of the Franco-German alliance, something that never happened before in history, is, you know, a great achievement, and obviously maintaining steady European peace through economic interdependence is something that is certainly worthy of praise. Regarding what the EU can do to market itself better or to younger people, I think the fellows probably have different opinions from me. I'm always kind of the fringe one here. But at least from my personal view, I think you have to offer something beyond mere economic growth and gain. You have to offer some kind of sense of inclusion or belonging. I mean, even the most extreme ideologies, this is something about human nature. I think they actually understand that people want more than just material gain. They want some kind of sense of grounded truth and collective well-being and unity. I don't know if anyone else wants to add on. I think Anthony, he always likes to add on, doesn't he? Oh, yes. A fellow neighbor.
So I'm also a neighbor of Marcus, and we had many heated debates before. So I didn't expect a less difficult question than that. Well, personally, I think that which really encourages me to believe and work for the integration and cultivate this idea is that we have challenges which are crossing the borders, and I really think that such as the environmental challenges which we face and which was mentioned before are not challenges which can be addressed on a national level. We have a wonderful river which crosses our capital city. This is the Danube. But it runs through many other countries, and I really think that it's not just my river. I share it with many others, and I'm ready to share this responsibility and this knowledge to protect something which is a common treasure.
Thanks for the question, Marcus. It's a solid one. No, so for me, I think a lot of the presentation of the EU is focused primarily on, we don't have war anymore, but nobody here has experienced war. We have economic prosperity, but it's rare that it's not the case in the developed world. I think the EU primarily offers, and I hope this is not the case, but primarily the narrative is about comfort and promoting license, that everything is okay, things are good, but it doesn't amount to anything, so that you can tolerate what your neighbor is doing, as you clearly are, but the case is there's no unifying force, there's no vision, there's no call to greatness. And I wonder, because I think the EU makes a lot of compromises, and I want to invoke who I think is the greatest European of the last century, Churchill. And he was saying you can't confuse leadership with popularity. So the question is the EU trying to be popular and have everyone on board, or should it be more of a leader and promote a vision that's more ambitious, to make fewer compromises? The EU right now is working on a trade deal with China while it's promoting human rights. Where's the compromise? Where's the courage? You know, things like that. There has to be more of a sense of drive and the willingness to make sacrifices, at times impose less comfort, but to explain it with vision. That would be my pitch. I'm not sure how doable that is as a press officer, but as a young person that wants to be engaged, that's what I want.
Let's give the word to Sebastiano and then to Jaume.
So actually, if I understood correctly, the question is, for us, what it is the European Union, right? And I'm a little bit less focusing on economics in the strict sense, but I would like, my ambition and my vocation is to contribute to a European Union through education and culture. Because as also Monet, people are laughing because I repeat this sentence every time, but now they understand that I really feel it. Also, Monet said, if I started to create Europe again, I would start from culture. So I think, as also our speaker said, the sense of belonging, to be European, it's a complementary sense of belonging of a national level. So through education and culture, this atmosphere, this sense of belonging, this value scheme, this togetherness, this sense of belief can be reinforced and promoted through culture and education. So this is what I envision for my future career.
Good. Someone said that if you have a vision, that's really good. If you have visions, then you have to go to the hospital. So vision is necessary. Visions is dangerous. On the conference on the future of Europe, the conference is a try, is a bet, and nobody knows how it's going to end. By the way, it was quite difficult also to create agreement about how to launch it. So imagine if you have to discuss how to launch the conference, what will happen when they will discuss about how to close the conference and what kind of results this conference will provide. But it's necessary. It was necessary 1 year ago, which in fact was the moment where theoretically to be launched. And it's more necessary now after this 1.5 years of pandemic. It's obvious that there are reforms to be done in the European Union, in a way or in another, but these reforms are necessary. And it's also evident that now these reforms, you cannot decide themselves just in meetings among diplomats or among members of governments, or not even about parliamentarians. 30 years ago, the reforms of the European Union were decided by the diplomats. 20 years ago, there was a convention where the parliamentarians, both from the European Parliament and from the national parliaments, took part in the discussion and in the decision. Now, if you want to rediscuss a possible reform of the European Union, you need to open this to the citizens. The members of the parliament immediately will tell you, but I'm here representing the citizens. I was voted by the citizens, and it's true. And during the last European elections, 200 million citizens, 200 million Europeans voted during the same 3 days to elect the members of the European Parliament. It's quite a huge amount of people. But it's true that at the same time, you have to open other ways for debating with people and to discuss with them and to receive their opinions and their proposals and to help them organize their own events and wait until these events produce effect and they come with the conclusions of these discussions and these activities. This is necessary. In the 21st century, you cannot simply say, okay, you voted, now you shut up until next time in 5 years. No, you have to integrate people in the discussion. And this is what the conference is trying to do. But we are not blind, and we know that each one of the institutions is looking to this conference in a different way. The parliament thinks, or a majority of people in the parliament, and you don't need unanimity in the parliament, a majority of people in the parliament thinks that at the end of the day, this conference should come with conclusions, and these conclusions should be transformed in decisions. Something should happen. You cannot put people to discuss during 1 year and then at the end tell them, thank you very much, it was very nice, look what a nice and beautiful document, and we are going to place now this document in this file, and let's meet again in 10 or 20 more years. This you cannot do. The European Commission, till now, focused, I would say, mostly in the debate with the citizens, and not necessarily about what will happen after these debates have taken place. My bet is that at some point the Commission will also be convinced that you cannot launch this kind of huge exercise and then at some point don't create the necessary follow-up. And then, of course, there is the Council, and in the Council there are 27 member states, so there are 27 positions, some of them closer to the Parliament, others closer to the Commission, or at least to the actual position of the Commission, which, again, in my opinion, will evolve. So we'll see what happens. What's the bet of the Parliament? The bet of the Parliament is that if you mobilize people if you are really successful in sending people to the platform that the Commission has opened, if you create a lively debate, if the citizens' panels work, if those citizens come with proposals, if these proposals are discussed in the plenaries among citizens, parliamentarians from both the member states and the European Parliament, plus the commissioners, plus the Council, etc., at the end of this process, something will happen, because even the media will ask for, okay, now what's next? And we will be in the situation where everybody will be obliged to move and to make a step more ahead. But it's still a little bit too early to put all this by writing. That's my bet. This is the bet of the majority of the European Parliament. But again, at the end, we will need a political willingness. We will need politicians accepting to take seriously on board the recommendations, the ideas, the proposals coming from the citizens and from the discussion between the citizens and the institutions. Let's see. The only thing that I can say now is that we need to create a real debate. If there is a debate, maybe at the end there will be a result. If there is no debate, or this debate is not loudly enough, then probably nothing will happen.
Well, thank you for the questions and for the discussion. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time to take any more questions, so we will proceed to the graduation ceremony. And I will give my colleagues 30 seconds to reassemble the stage. After that, my colleague Gianmarco will call the fellows one by one onto the stage to receive the diplomas and to take a photo with the speakers. Thank you so much for this special moment and congratulations to the fellows. And I will now invite Mimi Nuzzi on the stage to give her acceptance speech on behalf of the fellows.
So good evening, everybody. Well, I thought I will be walking here to some rock and roll song, but I guess the DJ didn't get the memo, but it's all good. So, my mother, like her mother before her, never went to school. It is a privilege and an honor to be addressing you on behalf of all the fellows. The European Leadership Program has been a very special place for me and has had an indelible impact on my journey. So, to all the mentors, spiritual coaches, to Peter Rosic, to Boton Feledi, to Gianmarco Palermo, and to Soraya, we say thank you. Thank you for your guidance, thank you for your mentorship, and thank you for being by our side during this journey. And finally, to the ELP Spring 2021 Fellows, congratulations, we did it. We did it during an unprecedented time in history. We've all heard some of our parents telling us stories of the long walk to school. They always say uphill on a very hot or snowy day. But now, today, we have our own stories to tell. Stories of surviving Zoom classes, stories of surviving bad Wi-Fi after a long day at work, stories of forgetting to press the unmute button, and surviving all the time we did just that, forgot to press the unmute button. But we surely met the challenge. We attended all our lectures, community services, meeting with our mentors and spiritual coaches, writing our research papers and defending the letter. We plowed forward and here we are. I won't want to go on, but I would like to share maybe a handful of lessons that I learned, lessons that I think will keep me grounded, will keep me inspired, and maybe have my 10 toes on the ground. And I can promise you I have 10 toes. The first lesson started from receiving a text message that changed my life. It stated, you should apply for this, and then there was a link. And that was a lady from Kenya that I met at a conference in Baku, Azerbaijan, asking me to apply for a traineeship at the European Commission. And that text message got me to the European Commission. And the lesson from that is, treat everyone you meet with absolute kindness and utmost respect. The second lesson is having a clear vision, or discerning your calling, as Father Peter will put it. Picturing what your dream is, or your purpose is, will allow for a near pure translation from human thought to something of value. The third lesson is, don't be comfortable, but be great. Benjamin Meyer once said, whatever you do, do it so well so that no one living, no one dead, and no one yet to be born can do it any better. Striving to become a great leader is very uncomfortable. It's full of sacrifices, ups and downs. It will test your value, but it's not in your comfort zone or in the perfect condition where you will find the best of you. So be okay to take the road that is less traveled, and be okay to be a contrarian. The other lesson is, as much as I do celebrate my success, I must equally be predisposed to celebrate my failures. I must use my failure as teachable moment, because failure is a teacher who will demand you to dig deep within yourself. It's what will push you to strive for what is sweet, by firstly giving you the taste of what is bitter. Find the courage to persevere, because other opportunity will show up, and this one right here is not the only one. ELP has taught me to have humility. In the near future, we will be going out there talking about stories of our success, but today we are at our humble beginnings. We're starting from the bottom, like Drake says it. But when we become top executive, let's not forget to be egoless. If you have someone in your team who might be more knowledgeable on a given subject than you are, allow them the platform to thrive, because having them in your team will allow you to find success. As Diego, I can see Diego somewhere, as Diego Cancafano will say, only then you will have l'équipe qui gagne. This now brings me to my last point. To come here for my traineeship at the European Commission, I had to take a 1-year sabbatical leave from my city at Newcastle, from my job at Newcastle City Council. Upon completion of my traineeship, my sabbatical leave was also coming to an end. I was then faced with what we call the dreamer's dilemma. Am I going to take the risk of joining the European Leadership Program, or the safety of going back to my comfortable job at the City Council? And I decided to respond to that dreamer's challenge on betting on myself. So do bet on yourself. As a wrap-up, if I may, allow me to just highlight the following. We are now emerging from this pandemic. Every aspect of our life is being rewritten, is being reconsidered, and is being reconstructed. The European Leadership Program has propelled us for this very moment. We will be going out there to address some of the world's most pressing problems. So when we have that moment, when we hear ourselves questioning as to why doesn't this exist, or why doesn't this work this way, this is God pointing us to our purpose. And if you listen close enough, you will hear the world tell you, go build something from nothing. My mother, Philomene Boatou Wakucha, like her mother before her, Veronique Nyange Kasanji, never went to school. To the ELP Spring 2021 cohort, I thank you.
Thank you, Mimi, for such an inspiring intervention and reflective moment. I was not expecting less, actually, from you. So, now it's time to share a video testimony of some of our fellows on their remarks about ELP. And unfortunately, it was not possible to include all the fellows on the video, but I believe that we have a good sample of what ELP means to our fellows to share with you today. So let's watch this video together.
The life in Brussels, thanks to the European Leadership Program, is just amazing. I'm living in a community that inspires me, that triggered my imagination, that triggered my inspirational ambition every single day. And as you can see, I'm in front of the European Parliament, and if somebody would ask me 2 months ago, what do you see in the near future? I wouldn't expect it to be here, in front of such an important institution for our country. So I must say that living in Brussels and connect with other different people from different culture, perspective, ambition is just an amazing experience. The European Leadership Program opened me new worlds, new perspective, and bring new fresh air in my life, professionally, spiritually, and socially speaking. So I would suggest you to apply.
So the European Leadership Fellowship is community of young people coming from all over Europe and actually all over the world that decide to live together for the period of 5 months. I would say from my experience that it's also sort of a family, and the good part is that you have the opportunity to exchange views and different ideas with people that are coming and have different backgrounds. So this is the greatest experience that you can find here in the European Leadership Program.
Brussels is an active, young and multicultural environment. What I love about it is that it's the meeting point of so different ethnicities. There is an incredible multi-ethnic environment here. And so for me, my life in Brussels and in Belgium is definitely full of inspiration.
For me, the idea of becoming a better leader is very much related to the idea of becoming a better person. So a journey of self-discovery and self-awareness in which I get in touch with my needs, my ambitions, my feelings and my dreams will bring me to be a better person and hopefully a better leader.
To start with, I was very aware of the unparalleled quality of Jesuit education, and I knew that this program will afford me with the skills and knowledge that I will need as a young leader. And this program really helped me discern my calling and my vocation. It matched me with the best European coaches and mentors that really helped me in my journey.
You can expect throughout the program to be confronted with a variety of diverse influences, viewpoints, either through the speakers or the other members and fellows of the program. This prepares you well for a life, either in your professional career, in your personal life. It gives you the ability to think about different viewpoints, think about things from different perspectives, and all around it makes you a more well-rounded person, more adaptable person.
The European Leadership Program, for me, it's a great opportunity to meet a diverse group of people. First of all, you need to get your peers who are also in the beginning of their career. You build this sense of community together, you help each other, you motivate each other. And on the other hand, you also meet, through the webinars and through the events, many people who already achieved goals in their career path. And it inspires us a lot, and we can learn a lot from it.
For me, the ELP is it's a program where it is what you make of it. It's an opportunity to develop your skills further, to complement an existing traineeship or entry-level job or internship even, and to not only refine your skills more, but to discover more who you are as a person, become a more well-rounded individual, and ultimately, hopefully, after all this is done, you, unlike most political science students, will actually get a job.
I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did, and thank you for the collaboration. Congratulations. And we are getting close to the end of our time together, and I will give now the floor to Botan Felady, manager of the European Leadership Program, for the closing remarks.
Good evening, fellows. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. I am really humbled to bring this ceremony to a close. I have a good news. Spain and Switzerland is 1-1, so you still have time to get nervous. Second good news, this is really the last speech, so the decreasing level of oxygen is soon getting to an end if you go to the terrace with a glass of champagne. And as I was thinking of that, I was thinking of a good image, because there were so many harsh words: sacrifices, fight, reconstruction, de-integration. You know, these are the tasks that actually you will face. But what would be a good image for a leader now? And I came to the idea of a good bottle of wine. Because you need to mature. Maturity will come with time. So this 5 months was a good initiation, and you have received a toolbox. You have received a nice bottle that actually will never be put into a cave, because this is something
that doesn't fit anymore my image, because you will be exposed to the sun quite a lot. You will be exposed to the real life challenges. The other thing that will never happen to your bottle is getting a label. You will never be ready. There will be no stamp on you that now you are a leader. And I hope you will never feel complete, because you will have to go on, and you will have to somehow always find the next challenge for yourself and for the thousands that you might lead directly or indirectly. You will share, and I guess this is something that you have really experienced over the couple of last months, that companionship is really important. You cherish these values together. And you will need some time, remember that I can call Sebastiano. Sebastiano, what is culture exactly? And he will be able to bring you back on your feet. And this support is something that you need to remember. Actually, I was thinking of leaders, whether I could evoke any leader who was alone. Maybe in times of crisis, maybe for a short time. But practically from the 12th apostle to the founding Jesuits, to the founding fathers of the European Union, usually it happened in a company. And if you think of lonely leaders, maybe someone from Austria who went to Germany, or other leaders, Napoleon, I'm not sure if we read the literature that their defeat was not in large part due to their loneliness. So you have to keep this companionship with you. I was looking for a good word. How could I let you off? What would be like a word to address each other in this companionship? I was thinking of, you know, the usual, you are co-responsibles of the future of Europe, too heavy. You are co-constituting the reality, too scientific. Cooperation, no. Maybe I was thinking that co-continentals, we are co-continentals, as Britain left us, that might be a legitimate address, that we share this. I know Ireland we have, and Cyprus, and yes, so thank you for dismissing, because I was also coming to this conclusion that it's not working. So do you know actually, what we all do here in this room? There is only one thing that we all share now, well, besides the values physically. It is breathing. We are all breathing. And you know how do we say breathe? I breathe in Latin? Spiro, spiro. So do you know what we can all do together? Conspiro. Conspire. So my invitation is to conspire well. This is the point when police is usually taking me. To conspire well in your future time, together as ELP alumni. Bring your friends into it, bring your companionship to a larger number, and enjoy this conspiration, this breathing together. Give life to yourself for being able to follow these dreams that are very ambitious but necessary. So that would be my message. Be brave to conspire large enough, and then enjoy as much as you can, because leadership is a joy if you do it in the right way. So thank you very much for joining us on this journey. I really appreciate it.